All right, everyone, starting this fall, we've got a spectacle to behold. The revolution will indeed be televised. The Trump trial from Fulton is going to be live streamed on the internet. It's also going to be on TV, but, nobody under 40 cares about that. It's going to be an interesting time. I expect that the reaction videos are going to rack up collectively hundreds of millions of views. What you're going to see is effectively a doppelganger of the witch trials, but it's going to be televised. We're literally going to get to see it in brilliant color in 1080 in real time from Fulton County. And this is because of Georgia's laws with regards to trials. This is the same reason that we got the Trump mugshot. You didn't get one from the federal case, that's Jack Smith's case. You didn't get one from New York with Alvin Bragg. You did from Fulton County. Why? Because of their specific rules governing, what happens in trials. Also, that's the reason why you know who the jurors are. In Fulton County, they do things differently. Thank you to the state of Georgia, because you're going to reinvigorate a lot of streamers on the internet. That's basically what you're going to accomplish. Here's the thing. Much like with the Trump mugshot, I think that the powers that be did not want Georgia to go forth with a Trump case. I think that any reasonable person would note that his mugshot was probably going to end up making him millions of dollars. It's now one of the most iconic political images, for better or for worse, within U.S. history. It's going to be literally in history textbooks for 100 years. Trump gets his way, basically. They miscalculated allowing Georgia to go ahead with this case. Now, they're going to additionally make a martyr of him by live streaming the trial, and there'll be millions of people watching that. What people are going to see is a kangaroo court. You're going to see a rather combative judge, an extremely combative prosecution, we already know that, reigning over this case and depriving Donald Trump of his rights, and you're going to get to see it in real time. It's going to be a shit show. In the end, they will probably find him guilty of multiple charges. That's almost a given. Because that's the whole point. They want to take him off the campaign trail. The first way you do that is by indicting, so you drag him through court. In the end, though, you can't drag a person through court forever, especially when that person is wealthy and politically connected. And so in the end, I think that they're hoping for an actual conviction. What happens from then on out is anyone's guess. I'm not even going to bother giving my own personal opinion or analysis, because we've already crossed the Rubicon. We crossed the Rubicon when we threw out 250 years of civic tradition to indict a former president of the United States / current presidential frontrunner. Since we've already crossed that Rubicon with the original Alvin Bragg case, it's hard to predict how far they're willing to go to stop Donald. It's TDS on the legal level. They wait for several years to bring charges against him for things that supposedly were done years before. They time their trials to coincide with one another. It is election interference. What they're trying to do right now is simply stop Donald Trump from being nominee. They probably fail in this endeavor, by the way. Then they'll try to stop him in the general election. You already have forewarning, there will be shenanigans in the 2024 election. There will be ballot machines that inexplicably stop working. There will be ballot machines that inexplicably don't have somebody's name on them. You will end up with that. I don't know that they'll be successful in the general. We might be headed for an election that ends with Donald Trump being narrowly elected, because if you look at the polling, despite all the indictments and other bullshit going on, he's more popular than he ever was in 2016 or 2020, partially because of his opponent being a vegetable, I suppose. You could end up with a situation where the United States decides to elect a person who's then under house arrest or in a jail cell, which would be the ultimate fuck you to the system. It would be the most American thing ever. Keep in mind, under the Andrew Jackson, dude recruited a bunch of pirates to fight the British and shit like that. Our history is rife with examples of presidents who have been mavericks, who have been a bit outlawish, who have been a little bit out there in their views. We've had plenty of presidents break the law, most of them violating the Constitution in the process. You look at you look at Obama with the IRS scandal, Fast and Furious, Michael Hastings comes to mind. You look at W with his wars and all of his bullshit, some offshoot Patriot Act activity with regards to library records. We've not had, since the first term of Ronald Reagan, I don't think that we've had a president who hasn't committed a felony in office. Of course, Ronald Reagan, 2.0, he was arming communist militias down in Central America with the Contras. It didn't go over so well, a little bit different from his first term. Trump is the only president, to my knowledge in modern history at least, since Jimmy Carter, or again first term Reagan at least, who didn't commit a bunch of crimes when he was in office and actually tried to do his job. If anything, he was too restrained. He kept too much to his constitutional role. Some of the TDS sufferers out there, they blame him for respecting the Constitution and not running roughshod over the legislature and judiciary to ram through whatever he wanted in an imperialistic fashion. It's the exact opposite of George W. Bush. It's very interesting to me, by the way. There are people that blame Donald Trump for the fact that he understood the separation of powers and understood he could not act in a unilateral executive manner for everything under the sun. Rather weird, actually, how TDS sufferers are even more clownish than the dedicated liberals at times. But the revolution will be televised. You're going to get to see it from stem to stern, from the first day to the last day. You're going to get to see the witch trial-like persecution of Donald Trump in living color. I'm eagerly awaiting watching this, by the way. It's going to be quite interesting. And I'll probably try to do some live reactions to at least part of the trial. Although the problem is, here's the thing. If you look at the highlights of a day in trial, in a big case like this, or like, with Trayvon or something like that, George Zimmerman, it's exciting. But the thing is, the exciting bits are like 15, 20 minutes of the entire proceedings, which might last 4 or 5 hours. And so it can be a little bit difficult. Like maybe I should leave it up to Barnes Law and a few people like that to actually live cover the trials generally. And I'll do a few bits, or I'll just go through the highlights and laugh at them, as I'm sure there'll be some humdingers. Donald Trump will probably act out in court. The overzealous prosecution will try to muzzle Trump. They'll try to silence him. They'll say, oh, we can't have a clown in this court. He's not allowed to speak out of turn. We're allowed to talk over anyone we want, but his legal team basically just sits down and shuts up. Basically, it's going to be a persecutorial proceeding. We already know that. The fact that the trial is even beginning, the fact that there was even an indictment is a form of persecution for political reasons. Everyone knows that. The liberals know it too. They just support it because they want Orange Man gone because they're afraid of him. The revolution will be televised. If anything, with every episode of the bullshit that you're going to see in Fulton County, with the judge and the sassy prosecutor and stuff like that, will make Trump more popular, which I'm sure that his opponents are reacting with dismay to the fact that it will actually be live streamed. Live streaming is much better than television, though. Nobody watches TV anymore. Your TV is basically just hooked up to a computer at this point for on-demand services. Nobody gives a shit about basic cable. We watch it because we've got a small daughter, so we put on the 24 cooking channel or something like that. But beyond that, unless you're a parent and you're trying to find programming that's reasonably educational but still interesting to you, there's nothing on TV. Everything's either it's PG-13 plus, so I could put that on for a small child, or it's so juvenile that nobody cares about it, basically, or it's the text-only channel that has flashing news updates about the latest soccer game or something that. It's pretty funny. I'm going to enjoy this because the American people are all going to tune in to this trial. They're going to ignore every other aspect of politics while the trial is live. And it's going to be funny because Mike Pence and DeSantis and all these others are going to try to hold campaign rallies, and nobody's going to care because they're going to be too busy watching Donald Trump sitting there, probably rather stony-faced, in his trial as they watch the legal proceedings. And many Americans who are not currently awakened to the concept of the shit that is the legal system will all of a sudden get to see it in real time, and it'll red pill them a little bit. It'll probably be good for their mental development. That's about all. Peace out.